Okay, thank you, Joe. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening. One moment, Marta. You have the password? Marta, can you resend the invite to Eric McWilliams, please?
Brad, can you do this, please?
Yes, will do.
Thank you very much. Okay, sorry about the delay. Marta, are we ready to get started?
Yes, the meeting is already started.
Okay, great.
I started recording, yes.
Welcome everybody to the September 13th, 2023 meeting of the Baltimore County Design Review Panel. And the meeting is called to order. I am the chair, Joseph Yusufero. We will start with a roll call to account for the members of the panel present on the call this evening. When you hear your name, please say aye. Ms. Ennis.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Khan.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Ronald. I think I heard Mr. Ronald.
Aye, Joe. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Sharma.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Ms. Sauce. I don't see Ms. Sauce on the phone, so she's going to be absent. Mr. Stevens. Mr. Stevens, are you on? Hearing none. Mr. Om Kujerkar.
Present.
Thank you, and welcome to the panel. Mr. Scott Walters. Mr. Walters, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, I think I heard you. Welcome to the panel as well, Mr. Walters. And I also have Ms. Linda Felt, who would be the residential reviewer for the Weaver Fields project. Ms. Feltz, are you out there? Just say aye.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
we got it. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Okay. So I'm going to turn over to Marta. Marta, are there any changes to the tentative agenda as published this evening?
No, there are no changes, Joe.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and make a motion on the minutes of the July 12th, 2023 meeting. So on July 21st, 2023, the panel members received an email of the draft minutes of the July 12th, 2023 meeting. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the draft minutes? I will take everybody's silence as you have in fact reviewed draft minutes. So who would like to make a motion to accept the minutes as circulated?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Khan. Do I have a second?
This is Matt. I get second.
Okay. I think I heard Mr. Ronald second the motion. So all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Any opposed to the motion? So this is a little tricky being virtual. I think I heard all ayes and no nays, so the motion carries. Thank you very much. So at this time, it is my job to read an opening statement as it relates to the design review panel. So please allow me 3 or 4 minutes, grab some popcorn, sit back, and I'll be back to you in a couple minutes after I read the statement. So Title 4, Subtitle 2, Part 1, Sections 32.4.203 and 324204 established the Design Review Panel with the acronym that I'm going to use, DRP. The DRP was established to encourage design excellence and shall act in a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process for reviewing development plans. The objectives for the DRP's assessment include spatial, visual, and functional relationship to the topographical characteristics, the natural and built features of the site, as well as the surrounding features of the site, visual and functional integration of streetscapes, pedestrian pathways, playgrounds, recreational amenities and parks. Streets and sidewalks are laid out in a safe and convenient manner, and parking is a positive design element. Building, parking garages, and other structures are spatially and visually integrated and suitable to their surroundings in proportion, massing, and type of materials and colors, signage, and other elements of the urban design. And plant materials are selected and cited to define the site, provide a theme, frame of view, enhance architecture and street character, improve microclimate, provide transition between dissimilar uses, screen objectionable views and uses, and reduce noise levels and glare. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies and/or Master Plan, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the County Council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic regulations do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development review process. The panel consists of 9 members. All are professionals with practical knowledge in the matters of design. For purposes of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available, along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be an opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called up to speak, please keep your comments focused on design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes of time. And if you're speaking on behalf of a community group, you will get 5 minutes. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Department of Planning will sum up the recommendations of the panel before a motion for a vote is suggested. Recent legislation has changed the panel's recommendations to be advisory on the hearing officer in the various county agencies, unless the hearing officer or agencies find the panel's actions constitute an abuse of its discretion or are unsupported by the documentation and evidence presented. Disposition of the plan will be determined as either approved, approved with conditions, or additional review with a second meeting is required. So that is the opening statement. I appreciate your time and bearing with me there. Before we talk about the items on the agenda, I just have 2 comments before we jump in. My first ask is to have my fellow panel members turn on their cameras when they are speaking, as it humanizes this meeting as much as possible, being it's virtual. And the second announcement would be that the first 2 projects on the agenda are repeat projects, meaning coming back for a second review. I would ask that the applicants keep their comments and presentation to only what was revised and resubmitted, as the panel members are intimately familiar with the project and we don't need to rehash any of the previous information. Thank you very much. The 3 items on the agenda, number 1 is 714 Delaney Valley Road, Bank of America DT, Towson District Commercial Review. Number 2 is 1014 Taylor Avenue, the Popeyes in the Loch Raven Hillendale Commercial Review area. And number 3 is Weaver Fields, Campbell Boulevard and Rowe Farm Lane in the Middle River Residential Review. So at this time, I would like to recuse myself from the agenda item number 1 due to my affiliation with the project. Mr. Matt Renaud will fill in as the acting chair in my absence, and I will go on mute and stop my camera and pick up at agenda item number 2. Mr. Renaud.
Thanks, Joe. Good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Renaud. I'll be helping Joe out here on the project. The first item on our agenda is the Bank of America at 714 Delaney Valley Road in Towson in the Downtown District Commercial Review. If the presenter could introduce yourself, the floor is yours.
Hello. First, I want to thank the panel for taking the time today to discuss the Bank of America Delaney Plaza project. To address your previous comments, my name is Eric McWilliams. I'm a professional landscape architect with Bowler. And with me today are Melissa, who's the project architect with Interior Architects, and Lloyd with CBRE, representing Bank of America. So if we just jump into the comments, there was a concern about the retaining wall. And if Marta, if you would mind jumping to page 13 of the pattern book. So on the left-hand side is the retaining wall for the site. There's currently a retaining wall on the Bank of America site. This will be a reconstructed, rebuilt wall. What we've taken the panel's concerns into by heart, and we've reconfigured this wall with a maximum height of 16 feet, kind of in the center there. And what's to be noted is the current wall curls down, basically touches the SHA wall on Delaney Valley Road. We've been able to regrade this portion of the site, widen out the landscaped area where the pylon sign will be. So we were able to pull back the wall 18 feet off the property line from Delaney Valley Road. We feel that this will give ample buffer room to soften the view of the wall from the public street. This vegetative buffer that's along the base of the wall extends the whole throughout the whole site. It's about 4 feet where there's parking, but where there's no parking, which is 2 areas. Once again in the front of the site, when you back beyond that 18 feet to about 40 feet back, it's at least 10 feet wide, and we'll be planting larger vegetative material in there to soften the wall even more. And then there's a bump out kind of behind the main row of parking on the western side of the site. As you come into the Bank of America site from Delaney Plaza, that we'll be able to place an ornamental tree there and soften that wall a bit more. So the view sheds from the neighboring property up into this site will be buffered by vegetation with that wider buffer area. The facade will be the coloring of the proposed Bank of America site, and we'll go through a couple of walls. The next thing we're going to reach onto is the streetscape, but before which will be based on the Towson streetscape brick color. The wall, which is interior to the site, will complement the architectural treatment of this proposed Bank of America building. So it'll be a darker grayer color. It'll be a brick looking wall, and and obviously buffered by the vegetation. If we can move on to the streetscape, page 16. Now this is in front of the site along Delaney Valley. And it is a seating wall with returns on both the northern and southern portion of the wall as requested from the panel. That'll parallel Delaney in the entire facade of the structure, proposed structure. If we could jump to page 20, this gives a cross section of how this wall will look along the street. So it'll be stepped as Delaney goes or has a slope from south to north. It'll follow that slope with small gaps just to kind of give it some air due to the extent of the slope. The height of the wall will not exceed, I believe, 20 inches, and that way it'll be comfortable for folks of various sizes waiting for the bus to be able to choose a place along the wall to sit. Having or being able to see this particular bus stop or this bus area from my office, sometimes there's 5, sometimes there's 25 folks waiting there, and they sit all over the place, and they like to give themselves space. So we feel like this seat wall will satisfy the folks in this area. The folks waiting for the bus, they can utilize the seat wall all along the frontage. To I guess to further dig into the bus stop area, there has been mention of a bus shelter, and we feel that this is a great option in lieu of the bus shelter. The bus shelter would be a bit crammed with the width of the street in this area. It would have to sit back behind the 5-foot minimum sidewalk, which is in back of the planters, and it would be almost shoved up against the Bank of America building, and would tend to clutter the view shed as you're coming up Delaney Valley, in our opinion. So the seat wall is a great option, a good look. The brick will match the streetscape, the Pine Hall pathway full range, which is the standard brick for the Towson area, with a stone cap. And we request that the committee permit the seat wall in lieu of the bus shelter at this point. So with that, I'm going to relinquish my microphone over to Melissa with Interior Architects to cover some of the architectural comments.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. You can jump to slide 23, please. So on this slide, you can see the rendering of the northwest corner of the building and the main entry tower. And here you'll see some of the material upgrades that we've made to the facade, which includes replacing the original wood look metal cladding with now a brown ceramic tile. And we've also replaced the stucco with a full height charcoal brick, which will be around the rear of the building. And these changes still maintain our initial facade colors, which align with the bank brand standards, and still complement the adjacent center facade aesthetics as well, which Taubman Properties have given us support of. And you can also in this image see a little bit of the retaining wall at the rear of the facade, at the rear of the parking lot. And as previously discussed, that's been shortened in height a little bit. You can see a little bit of those planting areas that will be in front of that to provide more visual interest. You can go to the next slide. This rendering shows the northeast corner of the building, which is along Delaney Valley Road, and then the center entrance. So here you'll see more of that robust planting scheme that we're proposing, which responds to the architectural canopy and the windows, as well as that proposed seating wall, which we've articulated more to provide more of that pedestrian function and also a more visual interest with the interacting landscape. We have maintained the smaller glazing along Delaney Valley Road, And that's really in order to promote the customer privacy within the private offices, which also aligns with the bank security protocol. But we do believe that the variation of the fenestration pattern does really help to differentiate the more private office spaces from the public open waiting area. And again, you can see a little bit more of that facade material, brown ceramic tile. And we also have shifted the signage closer to the corner of the building for a little bit better visibility. You can go to the next slide. This view is of the southeast corner and the exit of the site onto Delaney Valley Road, and you'll see a little better view of the charcoal brick that we're now replacing with the previous stucco, and we decided to bring full height, and that's around the back and with the ATM drive-up area. And again, you'll see more of that seat wall and how it really interacts with the landscape and the building. And again, that seat wall will be utilizing the red brick to tie into the streetscape, and then a dark gray bluestone cap to tie back to the gray facade materials. And then you can flip to slide 27, which again just shows a little bit more of those rendered elevations and the new material palette so we're replacing the wood look cladding with that brown ceramic tile and replacing stucco with the full height brick. And then again on slide 31, you can see just a little bit more of those enlarged images of the new proposed building materials. Yeah, there you'll see the new brown ceramic tile and the gray brick. And then I believe the remaining sides are really of our proposed signage, which the only notable changes, that's on slide 33, you'll see the site plan. We're just including some markings for 3 employee-only parking spaces along the retaining wall, and then again, shifting that building sign closer to Delaney Valley Road at the corner. Okay, and that concludes our presentation, so I will turn it back over to the DRP.
Great, thank you very much. At this time, the floor will be open to public input and or feedback from the community. If you are representing a community group, you will have 5 minutes to speak. Those who do not represent a community group will have 2 minutes to speak. Marta, is there anyone signed up to speak on the project tonight?
Matt, let me check with Brett and Jen. Brett, do we have anyone?
Yes, we have Miss Beth Miller um, from 523 Murdoch Road with the Green Towson Alliance community group. I think I have to make her a panelist. I'm sorry, hold on.
There's my, hello. Thank you for this opportunity to provide comments on this project. My name is Beth Miller, and I'm submitting comments on behalf.
Excuse me, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I would need to start my timer. Beth,
Okay.
are you speaking on behalf of the community?
I'm speaking on behalf of the Green Towson Alliance, yes.
Okay, so you will have 5 minutes, and let me bring up the timer. Can you see the timer?
Yes, I see it, and I don't think I'm going to need the whole 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll start now, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to start off by apologizing for not attending the first DRP hearing on the project. We didn't have notification about it for some reason, but we did get the second notification from Bowler. So I just wanted to mention that. We are very pleased to see this redevelopment project. I think it will greatly improve the landscaping and walkability of this current property that's almost completely impervious at this point. We also really appreciate the use of native plants for over 60% of those that are being specified. But we do ask the panel and the developer to please consider the following, reconsider the following selections. So there are 5 canopy trees specified, and they are all Ginkgo bilboa, canopy trees. The downtown zoning overlay says the use of native canopy trees is strongly encouraged in parking lots, downtown open spaces, and streetscapes. So we would like you to ask to change that ginkgo to a native species. We do have some concerns about the crepe myrtles along York Road. I just think they're going to struggle to be successful. It's a very narrow sidewalk. I don't know if you're going to specify those as single stem, but they're a fairly broad canopy tree that I think will probably get hit by cars and trucks and may obstruct pedestrians if they're not pruned up enough, or if they're multi-stem. So I'm just wondering if there might be another species that has a more columnar growth habit. And then our final comment is about there are 3 plant species that are being watched as emerging invasive species in Maryland that are specified. And they are all spread by birds who eat their fruit. We're obviously in a setting like this, we're not concerned about creep by rhizomes or something like that, but birds that eat their fruit can easily fly over to Goucher College and spread those plants. So they are I'm going to use the common names because I'm not very good at pronouncing the Latin names. Atlas English holly. The Maryland Invasive Species Council advises against planting that species. The Spirea bridal wreath is being evaluated. There's another Spirea that is already being evaluated by the state of Maryland for listing as invasive. And the last is the leatherleaf viburnum. I'm sorry, the viburnum, the leatherleaf viburnum. There is another viburnum that's being evaluated. All non-native viburnums are considered emerging invasives. So those are my comments. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Marta, are there any other community members signed up for the presentation today?
Let me double check with Brett. Jen, do we have anyone else?
I have no one else signed up.
No one
for
else
this.
signed up.
Okay, so
Great. Thank you.
no more speakers.
All right, thank you, Marta. I think at this time, if you are able to read the staff report, that would be appreciated.
Sure, thank you. So the planning department prepared a staff report, and the report will follow the Baltimore County zoning regulations code references for the project's conformance with the regulations as set forth in section 259.16 Downtown Towson District. In regards to environmental sustainability, staff recommends approval of environmental sustainability. In regards to block configuration site design, staff recommends approval of the proposed block configuration site design subject to the following conditions. Number 1, coordinate with State Highway Administration regarding installation of the bus shelter. Number 2, provide an accurate detailed site plan for the proposed pedestrian connections from the bank to the Delaney Plaza. Clearly show on the plan the proposed retaining walls, steps, and their relationships with the proposed pedestrian connections. Provide details and dimensions, see below. So we provided a diagram below. In regards to parking, staff recommends approval. In regards to downtown open space, staff recommends approval. And in regards to building principal architecture, staff defers approval of the proposed architecture to design review panel. And in regards of building materials, staff also defers approval of the proposed building materials to the design review panel. And for the signage, staff recommends approval. And for the lighting, staff also recommends approval. And this concludes our staff report.
Great, thank you, Marta. Appreciate it. At this time, I'll open up the conversation to fellow panelists. Everyone's kind of out of order on my screen, so we'll just jump around. And if I miss somebody, please shout out. Why don't we start with Mr. Sharma?
Good evening, everyone. It's like it's not enough, but it's me. So I concur the staff report. I have just one question which I want to confirm. Since this is a rendition, it looks like that sidewalk is it in compliance with ADA? Looks like the tree planters may be eating away into the space that's required for the sidewalk.
Would you like me to answer that?
I think that would be acceptable. Please go ahead and answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, the site will be accessible, ADA accessible, along Delaney Valley Road. The tree planters are situated so there will be a minimum of 5 feet between the seat wall and the planter.
Thank you. That's good enough.
Thank you. Any other comments, Mr. Sharma?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Ennis?
Hi, thank you. I agree with all the staff recommendations and feel that both I and the landscape architect met the requirements of the modifications, and particularly do like the seat on the exterior. I think that's a nice touch.
Sounds good. Any other comments?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Stevens?
Hello. And I guess all of my comments are really positive comments. The 16-foot retaining wall has been softened to a degree that I'm comfortable with. Also, the finishes on the exterior elevation, I'm totally on board with. And I must say, the stepped tiered seat wall on Delaney Valley Road is really a good improvement from the continuous wall that was there on the last submission. So all my comments are positive. So I'm fine with that, Matt.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Let's go to you, Mr. Kirchkar. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Thanks for a great presentation. I think I generally concur with the staff recommendations. I do have a couple, actually a question regarding the materials of the seat wall on Delaney Valley. I do like the configuration of it, and I appreciate the fact that it is a seat wall that steps down with the grade. The renderings show a lighter or more reddish brick. And when I look at the architecture, a question is there any way to, darken that brick up so it has a better tie with the architectural facade? One. I enjoy the grasses behind the wall, and I'm wondering whether in the view that you all showed, that is at the entry, there looks like there is some pink shrubs. I'm wondering whether on either side of the wall there's a way to extend the grasses to wrap around. And then the third comment I have is regarding the ginkgos. It's just a recommendation for your consideration. A species of trees that may work in those situations would be a sweet gum, not the seedless variety of sweet gums that is a little more columnar. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Stevens, welcome to the panel.
It's Mr. Walters.
I'm sorry, Mr. Walters. Sorry, my notes are bad here.
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry,
And,
James, put you on the
yeah.
spot twice.
No worries. Thank you. Actually, I just have one question, comment. With regards to the site plan, I actually like the seat walls and the and the steppy nature of them. The question is really around the bus stop itself. On, I think it's maybe page 16. So the three planters themselves aren't equally spaced. But where the bus stop is noted to be is in the thinner section between, if you're looking from the right, the second and third tree to the right has the smaller section between the two trees. I was wondering, was there any thought given to giving some hierarchy to where the bus stop and the signage should be between the street trees, and the kind of that in the whole sequence of getting on and getting off?
Would the applicant like to respond to that question, since it's specific?
Just to make sure that I heard the question correctly, your concern is that the area between the two planters that seems to be a little tighter is where the bus stop is, and could we give consideration to perhaps evening up those planters in order to give more room? Is that?
Yeah, correct. Should I guess the question would be, should there be more space given to where the bus stop is versus having it being the smaller space between the street trees?
Yeah, as far as I understand it, that there would be no issue, I think, from our standpoint as to sliding that planter up a little bit, just to make sure, with the caveat that there's no utility conflicts in that position. But if there are no conflicts, I don't believe we would have any concern at all with giving a little bit more room there for the bus stop.
Yeah, I think the other thing you could consider is just if you put the bus stop in the next panel, so if the bus pulled up, it's not blocking the entry into the shopping center there. So that might also help alleviate some of your concerns, Scott, just to give a little more room there. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. Mr. Khan.
Thank you. Let me get unmuted. I want to thank the architects for really thinking through some of the things that were discussed at our last meeting, and reevaluating some of the exterior material and the placement of that material. I think that the resolution of all that has been successful, and some of the concerns that were raised last time, I think, have been very thoroughly addressed. And overall, I agree with the staff recommendations, and we can discuss that in a motion. But I think the overall solution, is much improved.
Great, thank you, Mr. Khan. Have I missed any of my fellow panelists? If not, I just have a few additional comments. I think most have been echoed. The comment came up regarding the seat wall. I agree as well that that would look best if that's that gray brick that's been placed on the building. I think that's been a nice improvement there. So I think a material like that would be very suitable. I think it's just an item in the rendering, on the corner rendering, the hardscape is showing up as kind of that old Towson yellow brick and the red brick. Can you confirm that it will just be the red brick and not the dual color? Perfect. Thank you. Much better. And then my last comment is regarding the planting at the retaining wall. That is much improved. I would just encourage you to evaluate what you're planting at the base of the wall. I think it's a ginger that you've got proposed there, which is going to be fairly low. I would still recommend you to try to get an evergreen shrub along the base of that wall to get 30, 36, 48 inches of height there, just to take the base off of it where you can. It's still a substantial wall, but I think if you can just land it in a stronger planting bed, that's gonna work well. So those are my comments. So as chair, I'm going to turn it over to my fellow panelists to see if one of you would like to take a stab at a motion for the project.
I would like to make a motion to approve the project with recommendations from the panel.
So if we're going to do that, you'll have to, this is the challenge, you'll have to take the recommendations that you want to be in the motion, and you'll have to spell them out for everyone so they can be in the record.
Okay, I'll try this again. Sorry, my first
No,
time.
it's your first time. Thank you for taking it on.
I would like to make a motion with the following recommendations from the panel. Consider the following items. The color for the seat wall, the step seat wall along Delaney Valley should be a darker, or can be a darker brick. Please consider that. 2, the comment regarding the bus stop and the spacing between the trees, if possible, without any utility conflicts, should be revised to provide more space for the bus stop area. And then taller plantings along the retaining wall, evergreen or semi-evergreen, would be recommended. And as per the comments regarding ginkgo trees, consider using a different species of native trees, such as liquid amber or approved equal for this project.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to encourage you to respond to one other item that was came up from the applicant, and that's in regards to the request for the bus shelter and the staff report. I heard several favorable comments from the panelists that prefer the seat wall over a bus shelter. That's something that we should get into the motion as well, if you'd like to loop that in.
I would like to add the recommendation regarding the seat wall over the bus shelter. Get it right?
That's good. All right, so that sounds great. So I'm going to just pause for a second. Jennifer and the county team, does that give you enough for a motion?
Yes, I think.
And
I think we should incorporate the staff recommendations on top of what has been said.
Great, thank you, Don. Yeah, so if you can add that to your motion as well.
I'd like to add the staff recommendations to this motion.
It sounds good. Jennifer, still okay?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, the motion carries. Appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for revising the application. That was a great improvement and over the previous presentation. So thank you for the effort in pushing that along.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Matt, I just wanted to clarify, no need to return back to DRP for another review, correct? Can you restate that, please?
Do you need me to do it, or do you need to do it?
I think can do it. Yes, please.
I would like to add that there is no need for the design team to return to the DRP panel for another review.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Joe, the floor is back to you.
All right, I am back. Good evening, everybody. So we're moving on to item number 2. 1014 Taylor Avenue, the Popeyes in the Loch Raven Hillendale Commercial Review. If the presenter is with us, you can unmute and the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. First, let me apologize because I'm rather new at this. The civil engineer came down ill today, so bear with my ignorance on how to handle this meeting, but hopefully we'll get through this with Marta's help. So we are back again after our previous meeting, and we've taken all your recommendations, and hopefully we've returned and satisfied your did the changes to satisfy your recommendations. My name is Robert Grimaldi. I do represent PN Restaurants. This is a proposed new Popeyes at 1014 Taylor Avenue. You guys have the same slide that I have up right now. Marta, I guess you could start paging through them. Again, we're a 2,500 square foot drive-through, and this is, you can stop right there a second. I know we have a few new members to the board. That is the site that we're going on. We're in the lower right-hand corner. If you could go to the next page. And that is the site where we're going on to there. This part of the parking lot drops down, as you'll see in the upcoming pictures and site plans. This is basically the entrance, if you can stay there a second, entrance off the street. And as you could tell, the site slopes dramatically from left to right, and it also slopes from the buildings towards the street. So we are over to the right-hand side of this, so we have a double point of it dropping. And that'll come into play when you see our retaining wall. This is of the strip center that's behind us. And again, this is a cleaner indication of how much we are sloping. Continue, Marta. Thank you. Again, you can see the slope is pretty dramatic towards the right-hand side of this site plan. Continue on. I'm trying to go quickly because it is the second time that we're here. This is the end of the strip. Keep going. That's the CVS adjacent to us. You can keep moving along. I think the next is the gas station across the way. You could keep going. The Burger King across the way also. Unless anybody has any questions regarding the zoning map, we could move across that and we can come back to it if anything's needed. Stop a second. The next few pages will show the access, the stormwater, the landscaping, grading, environmental, and the building and signage. Continue on, Marta. Thank you, Rick, again. This is the updated site plan, and actually, Marta, the next one, you could go in, the next one actually is an enlargement of this. So you could just go to the next one and there we go. So this is basically, we've refined the original plan, slightly adjusted the building footprint, added some additional crosswalks as well as sidewalks, adjusted the planting area, which you'll see shortly, and just refined the plan based upon the comments of the board. You could continue, Marta. This is a vehicle turning path through it. You could continue on. The board didn't have a real issue with this. The next one we had, the board wanted to see. If you could zoom in a little bit to this, this is the truck movement. And again, the trucks that we went through the deliveries and the trucks that would be servicing this site. Basically, coming onto the site, as you see there, would be the truck to pick up the dumpsters. The only other large truck that's going to come on site, and it usually comes in the time frame of somewhere between 11 and 6 a.m. Is the once a week, the tractor trailer that is the full store delivery. The only other trucks during the week are a smaller box truck that comes typically between 7 and 10 a.m. and before the store is open, and that simply could fit in a parking spot, offload, and get out of the parking lot. You could continue along to the next slide. None of this has changed. These are foundation drawings for the menu boards and overhead detectors and such. Continue on, please. Typical details for the trash corral, showing the materiality and the general construction methods. This is a specific assembly for the retaining wall. It would be a Versalock retaining wall with the powdered aluminum handrail on fence rail on top. Continue on. Now this is where again there's two sections cut on this site plan, the A section and the B section, and this was the board rightfully asked for this because it was not very clear without these sections about what was happening on this location. If you continue on, and if you could zoom in a little bit. So the A section is from the street to the strip mall behind us, and which is on the top of the page, and the B section is on the bottom of the page, and that's cut parallel with the road. But also to let you have an understanding of how come where the A section falls. So if you are looking at the A section and you see the existing sidewalk and our person walking on the sidewalk there, and you see the height of that wall, we still have tried to soften it as much as we can, but at that section where the A to A1 section is cutting through the site and cutting through the B section, the lower section, it would be taken basically between, if you're looking at the B section of the site, that would fall in between where it says planting and retaining wall. So that is where the site is both coming to a low point from its sloping from the strip mall to the street and where it's sloping from left to right. So this is getting to the lowest part of the site. But as it goes back up to the left, where the street rises, the parking lot rises, the retaining wall diminishes as you go from left to right. And correspondingly, as you drive into the parking lot from where it says that existing parking lot, as you drive in off the street, the road obviously rises back up to meet the stores in the back. So this is the apex of the height and the exposure of the face of the retaining wall. As you go to the left and as you go back into the site, that retaining wall height is lessened. So we're in that A to A1 section, we are basically showing you almost the highest point of that retaining wall. Everything past that, both to the left and to the back, get diminished from that point. If you could continue on, Marta. And again, I apologize. I'm just an architect, not a civil. So these next few pages are from the prototype design. And this is where we had a point of contention, because then we had gone through some value engineering from these original designs to what we presented to you last time. And the board was disappointed that you weren't going to get the full gamut of the newest prototype. So as per your request, we brought back a lot of the features. You could keep going, especially in this one, the full awnings are along the dining room with the lights and everything else. We had taken it away in the last presentation. Well, we all brought it back as per your request in this go around. Continue on, Marta. Thank you. You could keep going. And then we'll get to the actual drawings. Keep going. Okay, if you could zoom into that just a little bit, to that first plan. One of the board's comments was that, rightfully so, we had ethos coming down to the ground. It's hard to see in the plan, but if you zoom in a little more, you'll see, and if you compare this plan to the original plan, the building has grown to basically a foot in the overall length and width because we added full face brick wainscoting to the footprint of the building. If you could continue to the next slide. Keep going so we get the whole, yeah, zoom out just a little bit more. There you go. So as per the board's recommendation, we added a full wainscoting to the entire building of brick with the to replace the ephes. We did not add the brick in the area of the drive-through for the design presentation of the niche panel versus the brick. It's still a design element that is a branded design element. And as long as the manufacturer's installation for the niche panel is followed, and especially since it's up against the curb area, not a planting area generally, we don't have any issue with the niche panel as it's designed. Hopefully the board agrees with us. But otherwise, we've added the brick wainscoting to the full face brick, full 3.5-inch thick brick to the rest of the building. And that's what you see on the top. Stay right here, please. On the top elevation. So that is the drive-through elevation. And again, that's the brick added in the front and the back. In the middle two elevations, the left-hand side is the front elevation, which we still have. You see the niche panel. You have the decorative wood. We still have above the 1/2-inch thin brick, which is again 1/2-inch actual brick, thin brick. And then the back, the utilitarian end of the back with the cooler box is the ephes above the cooler and still the brick wainscoting. And then on the bottom face, if you could zoom into that a little bit, the south face, which will be facing the street, you have the dining room and the brick, the full brick, love that chicken wall, and the brick wainscoting that wraps the building there towards the end. Yep. And if you can continue, I see what the next page is. Those are just the finishes, which we didn't really update because we didn't find the manufacturer yet. We have to find a registered manufacturer for the full brick, but it will be a full brick of the same colorway. And you go down one more, and I believe it's the equipment plan. It's the equipment plan. Again, the only real change to those plans is the thickness of the brick around the perimeter of the building. And that, you can keep going to the next one. That is just our response letter. Basically, we try to reply and respond in kind with all of the requests from the board from the previous meeting. Again, I hope we did that to the board's satisfaction. And I'm trying to keep it brief, so we'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Grimaldi, for the presentation. At this time, I'm going to ask Marta, Jennifer, and Brett, has anybody signed up to speak on behalf of a community group or the community?
Nobody has signed up in the chat to speak.
Yeah, I have no one in the chat either.
I have no one, Joe.
Okay, great. So let's proceed to the staff report. Marta, would you please pull up the staff report and go through that?
Sure, thank you, Joe. So the Department of Planning prepared the staff report based on the following: Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies, Baltimore County Master Plan 2020, Baltimore County Landscape Manual. And in regards to the site design, staff recommends approval. In regards to form and image, staff recommends approval. Same in regards to open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval. In regards to streets, parking, and circulation, staff recommends approval, subject to the following comment. parking requirement for the shopping center is 442 spaces. With this new development, parking spaces will decrease to 236. The applicant will be filing a request for a variance to permit 236 spaces in lieu of the required 442. In regards to signage and lighting, staff recommends approval. And same in regards to architectural design, staff recommends approval. And this concludes our staff report. Thank you, Joe.
Okay, great. Thanks, Martha. Short and sweet. Okay, so let's open up the discussion to the panel. I'm going to go in the order that I called roll for this project. So let's start with Ms. Ennis. Do you have any comments, Ms. Ennis?
No, I agree with the staff comments, and certainly appreciate the revisions to the branded forms of the prototype, and I like what the architect has responded with. I have no comments on the civil modifications, but everything else I agree with.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Mr. Khan.
Thank you. I agree. I think that a lot of the concerns that we had before have been addressed as best they can, given the topography that they're dealing with on this particular site, and also the clarification of the building itself. So I think it's moved along in a very good direction.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Khan. How about let's go to Mr. Ronald.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I would echo the comments. Much improved. Thank you for bringing back the canopy. I think that was a signature piece of the building, so appreciate that. Just a couple minor comments. The northwest corner, the circulation around the site is much better. The crosswalk is kind of on the northeast corner of the plan, which makes sense if you're kind of coming up from Taylor Avenue. But if I'm walking up at the front of the restaurant and going to the retail above, it seems like you would want to have a straight shot crosswalk up through there. So it's just something to consider in the future. Just check your area around the base of the building. You're showing bike racks and tables, and it's a pretty tight condition right around the frontage of the restaurant. So just make sure that you're able to include all of those amenities. And then just real quickly, it's just a minor thing on your next submission with the county. I would recommend you show the extents of the canopy on these engineering drawings. You can see it in the architectural plans, but you cannot see it on the site plan, just to confirm that it's there and there aren't conflicts. So otherwise, just minor comments, but great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And yes, the canopies in the front will not extend past the sidewalks, and obviously the ones at the drive-through will just be at the drive-through area. But we'll make it reflective on the plan.
All right, thanks, Mr. Renaud. How about Mr. Sharma?
I don't have any comments. It looks good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevens.
Thanks. I must be in agreement with everyone. I love the integration of the canopy on the main entry, the incorporation of the full brick at the wainscot of the building, and as far as the site and civil items, I have no comments. So that's
Thanks, Mr. Stevens. Let's go to Mr. Kirjakar.
Great presentation. I agree with everyone's comments here and the staff report. I just have one suggestion. The retaining wall, as it gets taller on your section BB1, on your section A1, it looks like the retaining wall is over 6 feet tall, and the plantings that are in front of it, if I'm looking at the planting plan and reading this correctly, there's 9 OL shown, which are the Autoleucans cherry laurels, which don't grow 6 feet tall. I would suggest using a taller variety of evergreens just to give the wall a little more to match the renderings. I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Okay, so how about Mr. Walters? Let's wrap up there.
Yeah, I appreciate the changes that you spoke about. I just have one question, and that's about the color of the brick and the wainscoting. Do, I couldn't tell what the color of the brick was intended to be.
Keep going down. So basically, it's going to be white because it's it's staying on this elevation. The natural red brick there for where the I Love Chicken wall is, that color that you see there will be indicative of the brick. Obviously, since full brick is not our spec, we have to find a manufacturer, but that would be generally the color of the red brick that's shown. And for reasons of the statement that you need a statement, they will be full brick to match the specified brick, the thin brick that's specified on our drawing. And as far as the wainscoting goes, it'll be a white brick. It'll be a white brick. We're replacing white ephes with white brick. So it'll be a white brick. Glengarry, we used to have a Glengarry, that white brick that we used on an older prototype. They then had issues with manufacturing, and I know we had switched off to one. I can't for the life of me remember right now if it was Belden or somebody else, but it'll generally be a white brick to match, to go along with the ephes.
Thank you.
Okay, so my comment as it relates to the site plan, I think I mentioned it last meeting. I don't love where the dumpster is located, the trash truck having to pull in and reverse out. But I do understand that it's a tight site, and you can't get circulation around it. So I'm okay with that. So I think that concludes the panel's comments. So we're at a point now that would one of my fellow panel members like to make a motion for this project? And just a reminder that the motion can be approved with conditions or additional review with a second meeting. But again, a reminder to the panel that this is the second meeting. So really like to go on the approved or approved with conditions. So that's the parameters.
Hey, Joe, this is Matt. I can make a motion if you're okay with that.
Great, please do.
I would make a motion for approval with just a handful of minor conditions. That would be just exploring the sidewalk connection to the retail frontage at the northwest corner, adjusting the plant species along Taylor Avenue to, as Omid suggested, to get a taller evergreen along the retaining wall. And then the third is just to confirm that the extent of the canopy will be shown clearly on the site plan drawings for the county review.
And Matt, just one comment that you did not say the staff report, and I do think there's an important comment in the staff report related to overall parking.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So in review of the staff report, just confirming that let's just get the language here, that the variance based on this, that the variance for the reduction in parking will be approved per the staff report. Thanks, Joe.
Department of Planning staff, is that motion clear enough for the record?
Could you please restate it again comprehensively?
Sure. I would recommend approval with the following conditions. Item 1, address the sidewalk connection at the northwest corner to provide a crosswalk to the adjacent retail property. Item 2 would be to address the planting along Taylor Avenue to include a taller evergreen species that works with the proposed retaining wall. Item 3 would be to ensure that the extent of the building canopies are shown clearly on the site plans for county review. And the fourth is per the site plan or the staff review comments, to ensure that the project will receive its variance for the parking reduction from the required 442 parking spots to the proposed 236.
Okay, and so when you're saying crosswalk to adjacent retail, which direction, Matt?
It's right here on the screen. You can see at the front of the restaurant. It should go straight across yep, right there. Thank you.
Okay, because they do have one. Okay, they do have one linking up to the striped island, kind of further east, or I guess, yeah.
And again, not being the civil, but I'm sure it's just a matter of getting approval from the landlord to relocate that. Because I believe the crosswalk that they're showing is in connection with a ADA spot. So that's how come there's the walkway. So we're going to have to get approval from the landlord that we can relocate that, work with them to relocate that.
So Jennifer, can I revise my first condition without reading everything?
Sure.
I would just like to revise item 1 for the applicant to explore the potential to shift the crosswalk to the northwest corner if that is feasible with the adjacent landlord and tenants.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that motion is clear. So there's a motion on the table by Mr. Renaud. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevens. I have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I think I heard everybody. Any opposed? Great, the motion carries. Thank you very much and nice job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Okay.
the board's time.
Sure. So let's move to item number 3, which is the Weaver Fields, Campbell Boulevard and Rowe Farm Lane in the Middle River residential review. And just a reminder that we have Ms. Linda Phelps as the residential reviewer for the Weaver Fields project as part of the panel on this particular project. So if the presenter would please introduce yourselves, and the floor is yours.
Sure. This is Patsy Malone with Venable on behalf of the developer. I'm just going to introduce the speakers, and then I'll be around at the end of the presentation. So Sean Davis from Morrison Ritchie Associates is going to do the first part of the presentation, and then Ed Gold from Goldstone Properties is going to do a portion of the presentation. And then we have Craig Carlson with Green Spring Builders, who is going to talk about architecture. So I will be around for questions at the end. So Sean, do you want to unmute yourself and get started?
Absolutely. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Good evening. As someone said, my name is Sean Davis. I'm a principal with Morris Ritchie Associates, a planner and a licensed landscape architect. I've been involved in the overall planning for Weaver Fields. As Ms. Mullen said, I'm going to begin by talking about an understanding of why we're here, and diving into neighborhood context, then talking about site planning, circulation, open space, and landscaping. And then I'll turn it over to Ed Gold and Craig Carlson to talk about the architecture. So everyone knows this presentation is a synopsis of the development plan and the pattern book that were submitted to the design review panel back at the end of August in preparation for this meeting. We do have available both the development plans and the pattern book if we want to refer to any specific page in there that you might have questions from your review. Next slide, please. So why are we here? Really simply, we're here because Weaver Fields, identified in red on the map on the left side of the slide, is in the heart of the Middle River Design Review Panel area. And as such, we are here for your approval. The criteria for our review are stated here and from your Design Review Panel handbook. There's criteria that apply to all projects that come before the Design Review Panel. And then there are criteria that apply to those projects within the Middle River, including Resolution 77-07, Bill 60-07, Section 260.2.f of the Baltimore County zoning regulations, the Windlass Run Bird River Road Area Community Plan, which was adopted in 1999, the Middle River Bird River Community Plan, which was adopted in 2002, and then the Middle River Community Plan, which is adopted in 2007. All of those plans really inform and help us understand the policies, the context of all of the planning efforts that have come to date before us, and inform our decisions as it relates to the planning for Weaver Fields. The specific objective criteria are stipulated, as well as the design review elements. And the design review elements, which are showing on the right side of this page, we're going to come back to as we review each section, just to confirm that we've met those guidelines, that we believe we've met all of those guidelines, and to illustrate how. So again, we're going to begin with the site planning and circulation, and then we're going to mix those up a little bit just in terms of the order of our presentation, beginning with the site plan and circulation, and then moving to the open space system, and then talking about landscaping, and then ending with building. So with that, next slide, please. Before we dive into the details of the plan, we believe it's important to set the context and understanding of the site's context and physical environment as it relates to how Weaver Fields fits in. So the site, which is identified in white here, is centrally located in the Middle River community. There is Greenlee. If you go to the upper right side of the page, that is Greenlee. Actually, let me step back. The road that circulates from the north side of the site around on the east side at White Marsh Boulevard, that is Route 43. Campbell Boulevard cuts through the site and connects with Route 43 and also up to Route 7, provides direct access for the project to White Marsh Boulevard and Route 7. And then the project is really strategically located in this area to serve the growing and aging population of eastern Baltimore County. Specifically surrounding us, the site is literally located between the preserve at Windlass Run. And what you don't see here, which is part of the development plan that's going through the approval process right now, is the Spiegel property, which is immediately to our west, if you will, immediately adjacent and directly accessible to Campbell Boulevard. But we have the Greenlee development, we have the crossroads, the Baltimore crossroads at 95. We've got a variety of large format logistics, e-commerce facilities. We've got a number of different residential communities that have been developed over a period of time. So contextually, there is a variety of different land uses that are happening around the site and influencing the site. But immediately adjacent to us is residential, which is important. If I can go to the next slide, please. Next, we want to understand, the regulatory and physical context and features of the site. As illustrated in the map on the upper left, the zoning for the property is a DR 3.5, DR 2, and DR 1 is mainly DR 3.5. The total property is 56.69 acres. It's divided into two parcels. There's a small division line, which you can see on both the zoning map as well as the aerial photograph. The property to the northwest is called the Rowe property. The property to the southeast is called the Stoker property. The total permitted density is permitted under the zoning regulations is 165 homes. We're proposing a total of 154. The site data that you see is obviously very detailed. That comes directly from the development plan. It's just contextual for this. But if you go down, if I look at the aerial photograph, there is a mixture of shrub, old agricultural fields and forest. There's 24 specimen trees on the site. What you see is light green is wetlands. What you see is blue is floodplain. And what you see as the dark green is an existing forest conservation easement. And most notably, the project is bisected by Campbell Boulevard, which was constructed within the last 2-3 years. And access points off Campbell Boulevard were provided for the site. So collectively, the environmental features and the access points off Campbell Boulevard really set up the form for the proposed residential neighborhood. It's really critical. Those are especially the access points off Campbell Boulevard. But overall, it's really important to note that Weaver Fields is being developed in accordance with the existing zoning. There's no PUD or special legislation that's governing the development of this site. It is being developed in accordance with the existing zoning. Next slide, please. With an understanding of the site's context and its regulatory and physical constraints, we dive into the site planning and circulation. Our overall goals for the site planning effort were to preserve the existing environmental features of the site, the wetlands, forest conservation, specimen trees, and floodplain that we just reviewed. To respect our neighbors, our neighbors to the north that currently exist in the preserve at Windlass Run, and our future neighbors to the bottom of this image, that's on the Spiegel property. To utilize the existing Campbell Boulevard access points. Those were designed and fortunately designed in appropriate places where we could directly access them, so they do not need to be relocated. So we obviously plan on using those. Another goal is to focus the amenities on our target market. What we're specifically showing, we'll describe in detail later, is what is provided to serve our proposed market, and then to meet all of the existing stormwater management requirements on site. Getting to a little bit of detail, the main entrance for the property provides access. If I'm driving down Campbell Boulevard and I look at that main entrance on the southern portion of the property, at the bottom of the plan, when you come in there, off to the left, I will have duplex product, and off to the right, I will have a single family product. So from an identity standpoint and a marketing standpoint and a phasing standpoint, with that one access point, we'll be able to illustrate both product types that are being proposed and be able to provide those initially up front and continue to develop to the left for the villas and to the right for the single family homes. We also had amenities on both sides, which is very, very important to provide direct accessible amenities to the residents, which we'll describe in a little greater detail. It is important to note that one of our goals, as we said, was to preserve the existing specimen trees, and we have preserved 22 of the 24 specimen trees. If you look in the center of the plan, there's a cluster of trees. There's a cluster of specimen trees in that location, as well as a wetland, and that's why that's been preserved. It's a wonderful amenity. When I look at the site plan, you'll see that almost all of the residents focus back onto or front onto an amenity, with the exception of that interior loop over on the right-hand side. But everybody has great amenity frontage, which is really, really important. Next slide, please. So this plan illustrates the breakout of the villa units and the single-family detached homes, and also highlights our publicly visible lots. The dark brown lots that you see those are our villa lots, and there are a total of 102 of them. And then the orange are our single-family. There are a total of 52. So we have proposed a total of 154 homes within Weaver Fields. And we are permitted, remember, 165, so we are below the permitted density for the community. There are no homes that are backing out onto Campbell Boulevard or that are double fronted in the community. Again, we were really focusing on providing homes that directly are adjacent to an amenity. We wanted to maximize those amenity frontage lots. We wanted to maintain the contiguity of single family. So when you look at this, you'll see that the villas are pretty contiguous and in the brown, and the single family homes are pretty contiguous in the orange. And the single family homes that are on the bottom of this image, those directly abut single family homes from the Spiegel property. Again, trying to respect our neighbors. We've located similar home types. In fact, these are larger lots than what's being proposed at the Spiegel property, adjacent to our neighbors. And then the darker brown that you see and the darker orange that you see are those homes which we believe are publicly visible and will be provided with additional architectural enhancements on the side elevations that reflect that public visibility. Next slide, please. Diving into the details of each one of the lots, we provided typical lot layouts in both our development plan and pattern book. We have front-loaded single-family homes. We have side-loaded single-family homes. There are a couple of opportunities sprinkled throughout the community that where we can provide a side-loaded garage for the singles. And then we have our villa units. All have 2 cars, front garages or side garages, and then they have 2 tandem spaces, so we have ample parking per unit. From the detail standpoint, all of the homes will comply with the setback requirements of 25-foot front yard, 30-foot minimum rear yard, a 25-foot minimum side combined yard, and then a minimum of 15 feet side yard for corner lots so on the public roads. Next slide, please. And finally, an understanding of the street, the proposed right-of-way and its relationship to the homes. The proposed right-of-way is 52 feet wide. It includes a 30-foot cartway, 6-foot landscape islands, or what I call parkways, on both sides of the roadway, and then 5-foot sidewalks outside of the landscape strips, or the parkways. That comprises the 52-foot right-of-way. And then we have a 25-foot minimum front yard setback for the fronts of those units for parking and driveways and access as well. So going back to the design criteria that we talked about in the beginning, from a site planning standpoint, the design criteria are grading, retention of existing vegetation, building orientation, what faces the street, arrangement of the buildings and spaces between the buildings. From a circulation standpoint, it's our road alignment, pedestrian access, integration of streets and pedestrians, parking mix, and garage, the parking mix and location and access. And I think we've been able to address and meet all of those criteria that you see here, or that are identified in the review criteria, or in the review manual. We think that we've done an excellent job on the overall site planning for the community. Next slide, please. Now diving into the open space system. Again, we wanted to provide a variety of active and passive open space throughout the community. We wanted to interconnect these amenities with the sidewalk and trail system, and we wanted to connect the adjacent trail, the Preserve It Windless Run, which is on the top of this image, for the betterment of both of those communities. So what you see illustrated here on this map is the dark green is designated open space. We are required to have 3.54 acres of open space. We are providing 4.65 acres of open space. And you can see it's really evenly distributed between both sides of the community and both sides of Campbell Boulevard. The heart of the amenity facility, or amenity program for Weaver Fields, is the large village green, which is on the right side of Campbell Boulevard, down at the bottom of this image. We'll dive into a little bit more detail about that. Then we have a nice active pocket park to the left side of Campbell Boulevard, where you see that triangular piece. We have a passive, but could be programmed for active uses, small public square at the corner in the center of the community. And then we have 2 larger passive recreation areas where our trail system will intertwine with the Preserve It Windless Run. So collectively, we think we have a great open space system. Next slide, please. I'm going to dive into a little bit more detail on each one of these programs elements. Starting from the left and moving clockwise around, that is the active pocket park in the villa section. It'll be programmed with a pergola, seating areas, nicely landscaped, trash receptacles, bike rack, and pet waste station. It'll also provide access to the trail system that you see going counterclockwise around 12 o'clock here. That trail system interweaves or weaves throughout an existing forest preservation area that we were going to retain, which we think will provide a nice reprieve for residents to sit down at the pocket park and then get up and walk into the natural part of the site and then come back. Moving on the again clockwise to around 1 o'clock. This is an appendage that goes up on the right side of Campbell Boulevard into the villages of Windless, or the Preserve It Windless Run. There is an existing trail network on the Preserve It Wellness Run, and this would interconnect with that. It would then connect down to our public road, and then actually between the lots down to the village green, which is about 3 o'clock on this. Within the village green, we're proposing 4 pickleball courts, a pavilion in a wonderful hardscaped area, and then kind of a passive park or passive part of the park on the right side with an oval sidewalk system, benches and trash receptacles around that, and open, kind of in the center with some nice larger plant material. That is actually circumnavigated by a trail system that would replace the public sidewalk in this section. As opposed to having a sidewalk within the public right-of-way, we decided to kind of pull it off and have it meander around the perimeter of this village green area so that it would be more naturalistic and provide a nice kind of differentiation between that and the sidewalk system. And then right in the center, you'll see the small kind of pocket park, which is located. We've got a litter receptacle there. We've also got a bike rack there. And then we've got screening for the adjacent use. That could be, kind of, this is where I walk the dog at night. It's centrally located in this portion of the section of the community. So it'll just be a nice kind of, again, passive enjoyment site. Next slide, please. Here are the details of the specific amenity program, the amenities that we're talking about. Obviously, a pickleball court. We've got 4 of them. That's really, really important. With 4 pickleball courts, it can actually become very competitive. The orthopedic surgeons in the neighborhood will love it because there's, no, I'm kidding. So with 4 pickleball courts, we actually can have a competitive league. If you only have 2, unfortunately, you don't have enough. But with 4, this can be somewhat competitive. So Weaver Fields could compete against other neighborhoods in the area should they have equal pickleball access. We have the 20 by 20 pavilion shown. That would be in the center of the village green. Again, it'd be open. We would have site furnishings in there, and it would just be a place to kind of relax on a sunny day. If I'm waiting for the pickleball, or if I, just want to just hang out and have a picnic with my family, that's a good place to go. We've got the natural trail system, which is paved through the wooded areas, through all the wooded areas. That would be an asphalt walking trail. And then we have the concrete sidewalk that kind of meanders around the perimeter of the village green in place of the sidewalk system. Next slide, please. And then here's some additional details. The pavilion, which would be located in the pocket park on the left side of Campbell Boulevard in the village section. We also have fence details. This is what our bike rack is proposed, bicycle rack is proposed as, and our benches are proposed as. And then next slide, please. Okay, so on the open space system, just getting back to the criteria, the review criteria really talk about the type, accessibility, location, and amenities within our open space. And we believe we've provided a diversity of amenities within the community, but the amenities are targeted to our proposed market, which Mr. Gold and Mr. Carlson will describe momentarily. And that their locations are mixed throughout the entire community. So regardless of whether I'm on the left side of Campbell Boulevard or the right side of Campbell Boulevard, I have an immediately accessible amenity. But through the sidewalk system and the public road, I'll be able to directly access all of them, which we think is critical. So we believe we have met the open space criteria and the design criteria, the design review criteria. Now, going on to landscaping, the landscape plan that you see here, or the plan that you see here, actually is also the landscape plan, which was detailed in full in the development plan, as well as the pattern book. Specifically, we're required to provide 581 planting units. We are providing 585 planting units, exceeding the planting unit requirement for the community. But overall, what we really were focusing on is strong streetscape, especially along Campbell Boulevard, to provide continuity along Campbell Boulevard and as it reaches into the community on the right and left side. And then all the street trees proposed within the public right-of-way on the east and west side, or the right and left side of the community. Then the highlight specific things such as the entrances, which we'll talk about in a minute, off Campbell Boulevard, as well as the various amenities that you see. So we believe we have complied with the landscape requirements. Next slide, please. And then here are some additional details in terms of the detailed landscape architectural design for the community, the pet waste station, the trash receptacle, the paving units. So when we look at the landscape requirements as specified in the design review panel handbook, from a landscaping standpoint, the plant materials haven't necessarily been selected yet. We're strictly a development plan. The streetscape and hardscape, the site furniture, relationship to the architecture and site, screening, lighting, and signage. The last thing to talk about really, we have the proposed street light. There is a small retaining wall and the group mailboxes that you see here. One more if you go one more. Slide, please. There are proposed signage along Campbell Boulevard. The signage to the left is at the entrance on the bottom, where it would be on both sides of Campbell Boulevard, identifying River Fields. And the pier sign that you see on the right, upper right, would be at the upper intersection, the singular intersection with Campbell Boulevard. So, you know, we're choosing a stone motif with either a parged concrete, which is shown in the beige, or some type of ephes or stucco, and then pin down letters by some relief for that. And so that wraps up the discussion regarding site plan and circulation, open space and landscaping. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Gold to talk about building.
Thanks, Sean, and thanks to the DRP for having us here to make our presentation. I'm going to be very brief, and then I'm going to turn it over to Craig Carlson from Green Spring Builders to talk specifically about the architecture. But I want to let the panel know how excited we are about this project. One of the things that we all know is we have an aging population that's nationally, but in particular in Baltimore County. And the one thing I can tell you after 30 years of doing it, we build basically the same thing over and over and over again. And we expect people to live in the same units that we build wherever we build them. So this project is not your mother's community when it comes to product. We have 102 villas. This is first floor masters. This is a 30 by 60 foot product. My wife and I just recently got back from Columbus, Ohio, where we visited some friends that recently retired there. We actually lived in one of these units for 4 days. It was really spectacular, the way it caters to what we call the 2 to 8 market. 2 to 8 market are the folks retiring in the next 2 to 8 years. So this is all first floor master product. It is really necessary in our county, but in this submarket in particular. So this is not your typical fare, 60-foot wide lots, 40-foot single family houses, and townhouses. All right, so this is villas. In addition, we have 52 single families. These aren't your standard fare single families either. They're on 75-foot wide lots, which will give us the ability to go over 50 feet in product width. For all of you on the panel, you'll know that that extra 10 to 15 additional feet of width allows you to do all kinds of things, whether it's 3-car garages or sidecar garages. Also, we have several first floor masters in the single families. So we're pretty excited that Weaver Fields does not give you what's been built other places. I'd also like to make one comment, add to what Sean had said. There's a reason behind the 4 pickleball courts, and that is that the pickleball is tournament worthy. And we've learned in other places that we've built it, that when you have 2 or 3 courts, you can't really host any events. And so we've gone to the expense to lay it out. So this could actually be something special. And you don't see a swimming pool, you don't see a pool house, you don't see a tot lot, and that's not what this community is about. All right. This community is catering to basically me. More of the folks in and around retirement age. So with that, I told you I'd keep it short. I wanted to set it up. I want to turn it over to Craig Carlson, 3rd generation builder in Baltimore County. Pretty impressive. I think you'll feel the same way when you see his product. So Craig, you want to take over?
Hi, everybody, and thanks so much for having me. We are Greenspring Homes. We build in and around Baltimore County. We also build in Harford County. We've built several hundred homes in the area, smaller communities down to single lots, customs, semi-customs. The product that Ed described to you, we couldn't be more excited about. We have been building our single-family detached homes with first floor owner suites for several years, with a great reception into the community. Many folks, again, as Ed had alluded to, are very much looking for a first floor. It tends to work out that they start their search by looking at all the resales that they can, and they're just really very difficult to find anything. Or they're trying to figure out a way to take a single family and do a renovation to it and somehow add a room to the side or whatever the case is. So we've known for quite a while, or have felt kind of in our hearts for quite a while, that it's the right way to go. That Baltimore County is in very much need of first floor living, so that folk can do the quote unquote age in place and be able to stay close to their families and what have you. So if whoever could possibly move the slides down to bring it up to our single family homes, that would be helpful. They can page down the next slide after this one. So what you're looking at here are 2 different styles. The first one is a first floor owner suite with 3 or 4 bedrooms upstairs. The second one would be a 2-story with all the bedrooms upstairs. And if you could page down to the next slide, please. A similar situation here, where the top one would be a home that has a first floor owner suite with bedrooms upstairs, and then a 2-story again. One of the things that we found has been a great draw is a modern farmhouse, as well as a craftsman style home. And we do not, and nor do we want to build your traditional standard boxes. As you can see, we try to bring an attractive view where when someone comes to their home, that they look at it from the outside and say, wow, this is very attractive, and I'm very pleased with the look of it, etc. So we design with that in mind. We have designers that give input to our architect as well, and then it brings out these plans that we design. We've been fortunate that we've been recognized through MBIA with several awards on these designs on our homes that have recognized that as well. And if you could go ahead and go down to the next slide, if you would, please. Thank you. And then these are our villa homes. Again, something that we feel is very unique, very attractive. We again incorporated a farmhouse flair or a craftsman flair to these homes. And the idea of having a home that's in this size, in that 30 by 60, 30 by 65, as Ed had described, allows us to put in a first floor owner suite. Also allows us to offer an office space on the first level if somebody wants to work from home. And then there's a 2 or 3 bedroom option to be able to go upstairs and utilize that as well. And the homes are 2-car garage, 2.5 bath homes, optional 3 in certain style homes, etc. But the whole idea is to try to bring a product that is very unique to the area, that's attractive, that would fit into the motif of what's being designed there at Weaver Fields. So with that, I'd like to certainly be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Craig. So I think that was the end of the presentation.
Well, thank you very much. And to the entire team, very thoughtful design and really well done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, we'll go to Marta to see if there's anybody signed up to speak on behalf of the community. Marta, Brett, or Jennifer, do we have anybody signed up?
I don't have anyone on my end, but Brett, Jen, do we have anyone who would like to speak?
I don't think I have a request for speaking, but I do have a community person that has requested to ask a question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if he wishes to speak. He didn't make that request, but he did ask a question that I'm happy to read out loud. Mr. Antonio Harrison has asked or stated that they live at 26 Oldfield Court and currently have woods as the view. Wanted to know if this will be preserved or how much of the woods will be lost to the Weavers Fields development. They're behind units 1046 and 1048 on the site plans.
So I would think that Mr. Davis would probably be best to address that one.
I would love to. I'm just trying to pull up our development plan so I can say.
Yeah, I think keeping up the landscape plan for him for the community member to see. Perhaps he could orient us if he's on the left or right side of the.
You said, I'm sorry, real quickly, you said unit
1046 and 1048. Wherever the development is backing up to Oldfield Court, which I'm not very familiar. Not sure if that's over on the left side here that I'm looking at, west of Campbell Boulevard, that little pod.
Sean, it has to be on the short side of Campbell, all the way to the left.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the aerial right now, and Oldfields is the court bulb that ends on the left side, so you can see the bulb.
Right here. Yeah. So if I can go to, I can't bring up the development plan, but there are some existing trees there. Some will be retained, some will be removed. Obviously, there will be, as you can see here, additional plantings provided there, but we have maintained, I'm trying to determine the exact buffer. It looks like it's a 30 to 40 foot buffer between the home that is at the end of the cul-de-sac on Oldfield Court and our units. What we're showing is units 11, 12, 13, and 14.
And I see that there's been another question about would this be a senior community? So as Ed Gold was explaining, this community essentially would be attractive to those 55 and up, but we are not proposing that it be restricted to those 55 and up. Ed, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's exactly right. That's exactly right, Patsy. One of the things that we want to be very cognizant of is we call it the 2 to 8 market. So we want people who maybe have had children earlier in age, and want to stay in Baltimore County. We have found that people just don't want to move away from their churches, away from their, shopping, their grocery stores, their friends. They want to stay really where they are. They just don't want a big house. And we're proposing that these have full basements, which is also a big draw, because what happens when you move out of a large home, I don't know what the technical term is, but I think it is, where do you put all your junk? And so you need a basement to put all your stuff instead of in your garage.
Understood. Okay, well, thank you. What will be the price range of the homes? Ed, do you have an estimate at this point? I know it's very early in the process and everyone has to understand that.
I'd be happy to respond to that. Yeah, at this point, it's very difficult to get to that place, depending on the timing of the neighborhood being approved and everything moving forward, with costs and materials and things and where they are. It would be difficult to ascertain that at this time. That's probably the best way to answer that.
2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. Any estimate?
Yeah, I would say certainly above the 5 range.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Okay.
All right. The Department of Planning staff, has anybody else signed up with questions?
No, we do not.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to Marta for the staff report. Marta, could you please read the Department of Planning staff report?
Thank you, Joe. So the Department of Planning prepared this staff report based on the Comprehensive Manual of Development Policies, Middle River Community Plan, Windlass Run, Bird River Area Community Plan, Baltimore County Landscape Manual, Baltimore County Zoning Regulations Section 260, the Master Plan 2020, Middle River Bird River Area Plan 2002, Middle River Employment Center Area Plan Part 1 from 2002, and Eastern Baltimore County Revitalization Strategy from 1996. So in regards to site design, staff recommends approval. In regards to form and image, staff recommends approval. In regards to open space and landscape design, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number 1, label all proposed amenities on the landscape plan, provide locations for the proposed bike racks, benches, and trash receptacles, and label them on the landscape plan. Number 2, provide a list of the proposed plants, trees, and shrubs. The use of native plants is strongly encouraged. In regards to streets, parking, and circulation, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number 1, label the proposed crosswalks across Campbell Boulevard on the development plan and also show and label them in the pattern book. Number 2, label on the plan the existing bike lane along Campbell Boulevard and also show and label it in the pattern book. Confirm any bicycle improvements options with the Department of Public Works, provide bike lanes throughout the development. In regard to signage and lighting, staff recommends approval subject to the following condition. Number 1, indicate if the proposed signages will be illuminated. In regards to architectural design, staff recommends approval subject to the following conditions. Number 1, provide additional color choices for the proposed building materials. And number 2, demonstrate in the pattern book how the proposed garages meet the following requirements outlined in section 260 of the Baltimore County Zoning Regulations. And this section reads as following. Attached front entry garages associated with single-family attached and semi-detached dwelling shall not exceed more than 45% of the width of the front building facade. Garages may project up to 8 feet forward from the front facade of the building unit. Buildings with garage doors extending beyond 6 feet from the facade plane abutting the garage shall have a full front porch, a minimum of 6 feet in depth, or a partial porch. Additionally, garages may project beyond 8 feet out to 15 feet, provided that the projection is equal to or less than 30% of the total width of the building unit, which includes the garage. If a garage projection is 30% or less of the overall facade width, porches will not be required. An upgraded style garage door shall be used in order to incorporate the garage into the building front. And this concludes the Planning Department staff report. Jill, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Marta. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to my fellow panel members for a discussion. So give me 1 second here. Let me grab my list, and we're going to go in reverse order, and we're going to start with Ms. Linda Phelps as the residential reviewer. Ms. Phelps,
Farah, before you move on, we do have some responses to the Department of Planning whenever the appropriate time would be.
Okay, thank you. So we're gonna continue on to the panel discussion at this point. Okay, Ms. Phelps, it's your turn. Ms. Phelps, you might be muted. So if you hit unmute, it would be your turn.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yes. Good evening.
Okay, thank you. I just want to commend this developer on really taking his time and making this a unique and gearing it for the older community, which we really do need the senior housing around here. I also want to commend them on keeping trees. And I have no other further comments on or anything that I disapprove of. I agree with the staff recommendations.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Phelps.
Mhm.
Let's go to Mr. Walters.
Thank you. I've got 3 comments and then a question about the staff comments about the garage frontage. But from my 3 comments, the first, I think individually the villas are really well proportioned, put together, and have a nice architectural quality. But when you start to put the 2 of them together side by side, I think they're a little awkward where the 2 different styles meet together. I don't know, Marta, there were a couple slides at the front of the presentation where you can see both of individually the villas look are very well thought out, but when they start to match with another style next to each other, where the roofs, or maybe it was further down, the roofs hit each other, where the dormers may be very close to the center line. It feels a little awkward to me when the different styles meet. See, maybe one more. Yeah. Is it good, like the dormer on the Addison model, or how the roofs are close but not quite on the San Antonio and the Charleston model there at the bottom. They just feel like it's a little to me a little awkward where the different styles meet, as opposed to when you see them standing alone. And then, Marta, if you could go up 1 slide or 2 slides, the other direction. 1 more, please. On all the single family homes, you have 4, all except for the very first one have 4 materials, of which generally 3 of them are unique. and there may be a different color of one of the sidings to make up the fourth. But the first model actually has 4 separate materials, and it's the only one that does. And I wonder if it's busy and has one too many unique materials compared to everything else when you try to make the composition. And then my final comment and question, if you go down one page, is on the Roosevelt farmhouse. The when the garage isn't there, like in the rendering shown here, is the space that's underneath the balcony that it feels like it wants to be in the same line as the porch, or it wants to be connected in the same plane, but this one's pushed out, but there's no habitable space underneath it, though it's right in line with the porch that's next to it. It feels like there's an opportunity to connect those two in a better way.
Mr. Walters, if I can just respond to that quickly, there are only a few lots that have the option of a side load garage. So that we added that just to show that we had a model that could have a side load. So just to keep that clear, there's only going to be a few lots that even have that potential. And we do have, I think we do have a version of this with the front load garage, if you would like to see that at some point.
We do.
Yeah, I saw it in the larger.
Okay, okay.
So, Mr. Walters, are you looking for Mr. Carlson to address some of your comments, or are you just stating them for the record?
I'm looking for, I guess, a response and a conversation
Sure.
To the comments.
I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Walters. If we were to start with the villa product, which would be down one additional slide the other direction. Basically, what we did was we had these homes designed in mind to share them with you, with the panel, to get their feedback before we ended up getting the final version, if you will, meaning that when we can do both a standard and a reverse of these plans. And so right now we're showing just some different looks, if you will, but we'll have offsets between the buildings, possibly slightly, which will contribute to them looking more appropriate, maybe is the best way to say it. We would, in the situation, as you see that the Charleston and the Addison model, that application, we might take those two homes and switch those where the Addison box bay at the top, or the box dorm, excuse me, possibly go to the other side. So your points are well made and agreed that we would take that into consideration when we actually do the construction and the building of the plans. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If you were to go up to the up 2 slides to it's our Bynum home. We've built this home and we've done it as both a 4 and a 3 in the front of it, and it becomes really a personal choice. And certainly, if it's something that the panel feels like, hey, we'd like to have it as a 3 versus a 4, we could certainly accommodate that. It's been popular both ways for us, and if you were to see it kind of out there, if you will, for lack of a better way to say it, you'd get a better feel for it. But again, if that's something that the panel would insist on, then we would certainly want to respect and honor that. And then, as Patsy had said earlier, in a corner lot situation, all of these homes could have a side load application with windows in the front. And just we're showing that other one to give you a feel for what that would look like.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great. Does that conclude your comments, Mr. Walters?
It does.
Okay, great. Let's go to Mr. Om Kurjakar.
Thank you. This was, I would like to commend the team for a very thorough presentation. It was very well thought through, and I really appreciate the fresh look at the architectural style and the thoughtful site plan. I have two questions that I would like to discuss regarding the site plan. I think I know the answer to it, but I would like to. Can you, or can you go to one of the site plan renderings?
There.
So I really appreciate that you're preserving a lot of trees, especially the fact that you were preserving 22 of the 24 specimen trees in that center green over there. When I look at the plans, there is some topography in that, and to that effect, I appreciate the trail system that you are introducing. The walking trails are really important, and considering the purpose of this development, I think that's a great feature to have. My question is that, is there any way to incorporate another loop into the central green space, unless there was some kind of a can you?
You mean the parcel directly adjacent to Campbell Boulevard? Stop right there.
Yep, right there.
Is that the parcel you're talking about?
Yeah, the one that is shown. There is a loop on the left-hand side. So on the west side of Carlson Boulevard, there is a loop that's shown. The one that in the center where there are, from what I understood, that was the area of the trees that were preserved, the specimen trees.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of topography that I can see. Is there a way to incorporate another small walking loop so as to bring people closer to the nature and really kind of build a series of walking loops that provide different experiences? Is one.
It's definitely something, if I can real quickly, it's definitely something we can take a look at. It's actually a great idea because we can connect the main intersection of the community at Campbell and that southern entrance or the bottom entrance through that forested area up to that small active recreation zone in that corner, so that those residents that are living at the top, that want to walk over toward the pocket park on the left side of Campbell Boulevard, they can meander through that forest. That's a great idea. We'll definitely take a look at it.
The only thing I would caution, sir, is that environmental protection has approved these walking paths through forest conservation. If that's forest buffer, they will not approve it. So I'm not sure what that area is.
I understand, and I kind of asked my question with that in mind, so I appreciate the response.
So we'll have to take a look at that.
Number two, just staying on the walking trails, just a question as when they cross a road, and I know these plans are still in preliminary stages, but there's no differentiation in material in terms of almost a crosswalk or a change in material where they connect through the road to the internal roads. I would recommend looking into that because I think the system is very powerful. And if there was a way to have a strong visual connection between the walking trails through the roads, I think that would make it more safer for people to walk. And then the third question I have is, again, going back to the woods and sort of seeing the hierarchy of these natural areas and the way you've laid it out, it's great. However, when it comes to the east side of Campbell Boulevard, in the single family houses, I see that there's a storm drain that runs between the layout that's in the form of a C. Is there, and you have exceeded the number of planting units on your plan, and I appreciate that. Is there a way to add more shade trees in between these units to give them
more privacy as they would be looking at each other's windows. There might be a technical issue, which I understand, but I would like to get a discussion or a response.
Yeah, I think if I can, Patsy, I think we can definitely take a look at it. We have you know, storm drain, or we have drainage easements behind all those lots that we have to respect. But you know, the actual illustration really kind of calls out that that area has been cleared, and it would be really great if we would provide some planting units back here to break up, provide some privacy to those units. So we'll definitely take a look at it.
Great, thank you. And then one last comment is that, and I know the images are representations of what you're thinking, but the gazebo structure that is in that central open space where the pickleball courts are, looking at the character of it, I was really drawn to the architectural character of the homes, and I personally love the farmhouse style, and I feel like there is an
Wait, stop.
up.
Go back up to number 11.
Yeah, go back up if you would. 2 slides or 3 slides.
Yep, you just passed it, Marta.
One more.
One more. One more.
One more. There you go.
Yeah, and I kept thinking that, is there a way to enhance this structure so that it has a better tie to the architectural character of the entire, new neighborhood, which might be a very powerful thing in terms of connecting these buildings to the landscape and the public open spaces.
Great point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move to Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, if you're out there, you're up.
Yes, sir. So everything is already said. I don't have any additional comment on top of what has already been said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's go to Mr. Ronald.
Hey, Joe. Yeah, I echo Ohm's comments about the open space system. Just a couple questions regarding that. On the left-hand side, there's the active kind of pocket park there on the cul-de-sac. Is there I see the grade kind of at that northeast corner of that triangle. Is there any way to connect that back to the open space trail? Just to, connect that back to the trail system? It would really make your open space feel twice as big if there was a way to sneak a pathway through there. So that's my first comment, and I'll kind of go through these, and then I'll let the applicant speak. So that's the first location. The second is at the main park on the eastern side. Marta, if you can scroll over there. There's the oval park space, it has the access at the gazebo that we were just talking about, but there's no other way to get to the circular park. So I would envision that residents will probably start walking through the grass. So I would either recommend creating more connections to that ellipse, or removing it and having just the perimeter walkway that the applicant described about meandering around the park space, letting that be the walkway. So it just seems right now the way it's laid out just seems like it's not quite usable. And then just building on Ohm's question regarding the trees to the left, the tree preserve, and it's just a question for the applicant. Is the second road entrance needed on the north side of those trees, or could that road actually stop and be a cul-de-sac at the 2 villa units, which would allow the tree preserve and the open space to connect through there and not have that cut? And then the last is, sorry, I have one more. It's just the trail on the western side of Campbell. Does it have the ability to connect to Campbell Boulevard so that residents could loop and walk along the street and kind of create that loop versus having to cut back through the community? So just 4 quick questions for the applicant.
I have an answer to the question about the second. We need a second means of access with that number of units. The county requires that for over 100 units or over. I think 100 units are on that side.
Perfect, thank you.
We would need the second means of access, and then I'll let Sean pick up the comments about connecting the trail, the ellipse, and the connections through to that. And your last question.
I think those are great. Those are great comments. I think we absolutely take a look at providing a connection from the pocket park back to the trails. There are some slopes there that we have to deal with, so I just want to make sure that we can provide those. We can provide that connection in a safe manner. I really like the idea of connecting that trail back up to Campbell Boulevard. We've got to take a look at the environmental restrictions and constraints on that to do it, but I think that's definitely possible. And then finally, I think it's a great point. The original concept design for that ellipse did have additional connections, but based on the size of it, we may want to eliminate that ellipse and then just have the curvilinear pathway along the perimeter in lieu of the sidewalk, and thereby provide just a little bit more open, flexible play space for whatever, throwing a frisbee or just throwing a picnic, throwing a blanket down for a picnic.
Cool. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
So, Mr. Renaud, did that address all your questions?
It did. Thanks, Joe.
Gotcha. Thank you. So let's go to Mr. Khan.
Thank you. I think that overall plan, I think, and as our discussions have gone along, is really successful. And I think you've done a great job sort of taking advantage of this particular site. The concern, I guess, one question I really, as the staff wrote, which we haven't answered, but I think Patsy was going to answer about the garages.
Yes.
Can you do that? So
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Why don't we go ahead and, since Mr. Khan, you had a question, why don't you go ahead, Patsy, and go ahead and address that?
Sure. Now I have to thank Jen Nugent, who gave me a heads up on this when she remarked that the projection seemed to be significant. When we first submitted this, the garage is projected 20 feet in front of the villas. Now, this is only on the villas. There was the comment about the projection on the villas. The projection on the single-family homes meets the regulations, so there's no issue with the single-family homes. Now, the villas, again, the projection was 20 feet, so I immediately went back to Greenspring and to Mr. Gold and asked them, if there was any way to take another look at the projection, even leading up to this meeting. I certainly wanted to address these issues as quickly as possible. They did take another look at the architecture. They have been able to reduce the projection on the villas down to 8 feet, which satisfies the Section 260 with the addition of the 6-foot wide front porch. So the solution would be, we're going to reduce the villas, the garage on the villas, so that it only has an 8-foot projection, and we're going to guarantee there's going to be a 6-foot wide front porch on each unit. We are also making the commitment to have the architectural garage doors. So the floor plans have not been introduced to you or the planning department. We wanted to wait till this, but the floor plans have been updated to show that reduced garage projection. The individual elevations have been updated. The combined elevations have been updated, and we also have added another color option for the single family and the villas. So if you could scroll forward one more. So these indicate the reduced projection. Now, the thing I do have to caution is that the garage, because it's a double garage with a 16-foot wide door on a 30-foot wide unit, still will exceed the maximum required. It will actually be 54% of the front facade. And that is with that, we are committing to do the architectural grade garage door as shown on here. So we still will need relief for the villa unit, for the garage, the size of the garage door on the unit, but we have eliminated any need for relief for the projection. So this is one of the, I think if we scroll through just a couple of them, you can see that each of them have been reduced, and the floor plan next to it, I think, will show you that, and the 6-foot garage door. So each of these have been updated to that. And they actually got these finished today, just to show you with the reduced projection on, putting 2 units together. I know that doesn't address any of the comments that have been made today about the villa units, but, and these show the additional color which the planning department had requested. So hopefully that answers your question about the garages. And again, we would suggest the requirement that we have 6 foot deep front porches and the architectural style garage doors.
Thank you. Yes. So overall, I think, again, it's successful. I would hope that the patterns that are used for these buildings, particularly on the side-by-side models, are thoughtfully put together. I think it gets a little bit awkward, as we've said, when some of these models are adjacent to each other. And if we're being asked to sort of broadly approve this, I would hope that the staff would be able to sort of direct some of that. In some cases, they're shutters, in other cases, they're not. I just think as sophisticated as the concept is, I think the buildings really, currently at least, fall short of being as successful as the overall site plan. And that's my comment.
Sure, thank you. And we would certainly work with the planning department as the project moves forward. And I guess I would ask their advice on how to handle that issue.
If I can interject, this is Jennifer. I'll turn my video on.
Sure.
So because this is a major subdivision, the planning department will have to review the development plan and the development pattern book and make a report to the ALJ in addition to the panel's recommendations. So, you know, we obviously already really take a scrutinized look at the architecture to make sure that it does meet the Manual of Regulations, section 260.6 of the CMDP. And when Patsy was, for example, when Patsy was explaining about the garage door width, offsetting that impact with certain types of architectural treatments are the kinds of, you know, nuances and compromises that we work through with the applicant. So we will do that at the development plan prior to ALJ hearing phase. The planning department will.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Khan, does that conclude your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Let's go to Ms. Ennis.
I wanted to also commend the design team for the overall thoughtful nature of the presentation. All my comments or questions have actually, it would be a repeat of I've had the exact same comments. The one more cohesive comment on the pickleball court, where all the exterior structures should align with the architecture of the overall development. It wasn't stated exactly as that, but that would be my only clarifying statement. Everything else, I agree with my fellow panelists, and everything has already been brought up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So as I get to go ninth in the order, a lot of my comments have already been brought up. I actually have a question for Marta as it relates to the staff report, and then I'm going to take that response and ask the Mr. Davis. So in the staff report, under streets, parking, and circulation, there's a recommendation for approval conditioned upon providing bike lanes throughout the development. Marta, can you elaborate, or whomever made the comment, about what you're looking for there?
Yes, we've made this comment hoping that the applicant can explore additional opportunities for bike lanes throughout the development, because there is currently existing bike lane along Campbell Boulevard, but if we can explore more options on providing the bike lane connection throughout the development.
Understood.
If a bike lane isn't feasible, some sort of provision for bicycle transportation through the development, and that could be signage, pavement marking, as well as in the centralized open space, maybe providing for a bike rack or two, things of that nature.
Excellent. Thank
We're
you.
always trying to promote alternative transportation opportunities throughout the county.
Good. Yeah, and where I was going was, on a standard, state highway road, there might be a travel lane and perhaps a 4 or 5 foot bike lane on the side. So I just wanted to make sure that that's not what you were getting at. So the question goes back to Mr. Davis. Are you able to think through that and add some bike racks and promote bicycles through the development?
We definitely have bike racks within the community, within the designated active recreation zones for recognizing that people will ride bikes. We believe that obviously tying into Campbell Boulevard, where there is the bike lane, I mean, we're accustomed in residential neighborhoods within Baltimore County that there's a shared use provision within the public right of way, within the proposed pavement section. Additional markings to indicate that, we would totally agree with. So we'll explore it with planning.
Excellent. Thank you. And my last comment is to Mr. Gold. When Mr. Gold said pickleball, we're going to have some tournaments here, and that sounds really, really good. When you get your hundreds or if not thousands of people, where are they going to park? Where are they going to park?
So my comment was, it's tournament worthy.
What does that mean
Right.
for
It
somebody who
means
doesn't play pickleball?
you can't have open competition with 3 courts. They have to have 4 courts to have open competition. So it'll be interesting how we draft the HOA docs.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, thank you. It was partial joke, partial thinking about
Right.
if in fact that's real, where do the players park. So thank you very much. All right, so I think Ms. Malone and the team have addressed some of the conditions that the staff report made. We're at a point now that we are, again, reminder that we can say we approve the project. We can approve the project with conditions, or we can ask for an additional review with a second meeting that would be required. So I'm going to open it up now to my fellow panelists and asking if anybody would like to make a motion.
Joseph, I have not had the opportunity to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Stevens. Gosh, that was.
That's fine.
You're Mr. Stevens. You're up.
So completely understand. All right. And most of the comments I must agree with. I mean, this is a very good development, and I don't really have much to say outside of what has already been said. But I guess one concern I have, or a talking point, is there within this site, which I didn't see on any of the sheets, pertaining to a service dumpster area on this development? Where are they located or not located?
There's no dumpster located. This is, private residential service, which I believe is part of, the Baltimore County Public Services that are provided.
Okay. The other concern I have is pertaining to the pickleball court. I just want you to really be aware that I listened to a TV program about pickleball courts and the noise early in the morning that is becoming a distraction to adjacent neighbors. So as long as you are aware of that and there's the proper buffer from pickleball courts to adjacent properties, and you are aware of that, and it's taken into consideration. That's my comment. But I know it was an issue with a lot of developments in Florida, with early morning pickleball happening and it becoming a distraction to the adjacent neighbors.
That's a great point, Mr. Stevens. We've specifically located the pickleballs in the fronts of the homes, which is really, most people live in the backs of their homes. So locating it in the fronts, if you look around that village green, you'll see that those are all the fronts of the homes. In addition, there's ample opportunity to impose hours of play if it does become an issue.
Yeah, okay. I'm just, the early morning was the distraction to the neighbors, but I understand. Okay.
I thought you were going to say that you're an orthopedic surgeon and you really look forward to the pickleballs being located here.
All right, thank you, Mr.
That's
Stevens.
That's my part-time job.
Right.
Anything else, Mr. Stevens?
No, that's it.
All right, and I apologize again.
No, that's fine.
All right, so let's try this again. We're at a point where we can make a motion. So would one of my fellow panel members like to make a motion? Perhaps I was on mute. Would one of my fellow panel members like to make a motion?
Anyone?
I would like to make a motion to approve the plan with the comments that were discussed and stated in the staff report. Do I have to state every comment that was stated by?
Well,
If you could just try and summarize the salient points that you think need to be addressed that weren't covered in the staff report that came up as a result of this discussion this evening.
Okay. I would like to make a motion for approval with the following conditions or following recommendations for the team to consider. Consider a trail connections through the roadways. Consider looking into the central wooded area to provide a pedestrian trail connection. Consider a architectural style for the outdoor structures and the amenity structures to be compliant with the architectural character of the development, and I think that's all I had.
As well as the recommendations of the staff report. Is that, I think you said
As
that.
well as
already.
recommendations of the staff report. I did start with that. Thank you.
Department of Planning staff, is that clear enough for you?
So just wanted to clarify, no need to come back for another review, right?
Yes, that would be a conditional approval.
I would like to state that the team does not need to come back for another review.
Excellent. Great, there's a motion on the table. Would
Second.
you like to second the motion?
Second.
I'll second. Oh,
I think I heard Mr. Khan second the motion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? So everybody said aye. The motion carries. Congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you all
Thank you
very
very
much
much
for
for
your time.
everybody's time tonight. Sorry, I know we were a little longer than than usual.
It's a big project, and I
Thank
think
you for
the team did a nice
listening.
job.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, it is now 8:35. We've covered a lot this evening. Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
Since I've made many motions, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Way to go.
All
We
right.
have a motion on the
Do I-
floor. Is there a second?
I
There's a
second
second.
that.
Yeah, it sounds like everybody seconded it, but
Yes.
but for the record, I think Mr. Stevens seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for a successful meeting, and have a great rest of your week.
Good
Okay.
job, everybody.
Thank you all very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Marta, just trying to get the
I need to
stuff in
stop.
the chat.
I need to stop recording. Just